Hi guys, welcome to Vesna TV. It's Vesna here. Thank you so much for dropping by. For today's video, I'm making 4 wreaths, 2 Valentine's Day and 2 winter themed. So let's get started. So firstly, I'm going to be making a larger wreath out of this rattan material. The theme is 2 Valentine's Day wreaths, a larger and a smaller one, and 2 winter wreaths, a larger and a smaller one. So for this larger Valentine's wreath, as I said, I'm using the rattan wreath form, and this little pickup truck from the Dollar Tree. It is very cute. It's a Valentine's Day theme. I'm going to be keeping it basically as is, just adding a little bit of pink to the red. And it's very, very pretty, this little truck. So I really like, and I love the little hearts and the tire is just perfect for Valentine's Day. And for $1.25, it doesn't get any better because it's $1.25 because I'm in Canada. And I'm just using the Cotton Candy Pink acrylic paint from Dollar Tree. And I'll be brushing it on, kind of dry brushing it onto the truck, and then I'm going to let it kind of sit for a few seconds, and I'll be wiping it off with a baby wipe, and I'm going to be doing this several times. I went ahead and then I added a little bit of the Tutti Frutti pink as well, just to get I just wanted a little bit more of a reddish pink than quite a red color, and I think I achieved it after several coats of both and wiping them off. I was pretty happy with the color of the truck, and then I was ready to move on. And so anytime I'm putting a wreath together, I kind of plan out what florals I'll use for it, and then I always have a little bit more than I need, and then I kind of start putting it together. So for this one, I wanted the bow to be the focal point, and as well as the car, and then I wanted the sides kind of to be all sorts of greenery and pink flowers. I have this little picture that's in my notebook that's an inspiration from Pinterest, and I kind of base that off of what I'm going to be putting in here. So I've got this green pick from the Dollar Tree, and it's just, I'm not sure what flower it's supposed to be, it doesn't say, but it's just a long piece of floral, and I just cut little branches off of it. Actually, come to think of it, might be from Dollarama, not from Dollar Tree. But it goes a long way because it's quite long and has several branches, so I just kind of layer them one on top of the other. Then I put some baby's breath in, and basically I just layer all sorts of different flowers depending on what I thought needed to be fit in there. I also wind up using some eucalyptus leaves, then some orchids, and then these pink flowers also. They're all from the Dollar Tree or Dollarama. Dollarama is kind of like Dollar General, I think, in the States, but here in Canada it's Dollarama, I think, because it's more than $1, but no more than $4. I don't know what Dollar General goes up to, but this one goes up to $4. And so I just use all sorts of different greens and different pinks in here, but not a whole lot. I just wanted to have that effect of a little bit of green hanging off to the sides with some pink. So you'll see me putting them all together. So I didn't buy any of this year. The pink flowers, these ones, I've had for several years. I believe they were for my shower. Then the orchids were for my wedding, but you can find all of these at the Dollar Tree at some point in the spring and summer. You could even probably find it now because I've seen them get all sorts of flowers now, but we're on a stay-home order here in our part of Canada, so I'm trying not to go to the store unless I absolutely need to. So whatever I had at home, I used. And other than the orchids and the pink flowers, everything else was bought either in the spring or summer of last year. But I did see some when I went just before we went on our lockdown. When I went to the Dollar Tree, they started to have some of these pink flowers that you can see in here. So they're already starting to get stuff, and the baby's breath. But that is the fun part when you're making a wreath like this. You can really add anything that you have in your stash of if you have a stash of florals, but it's not really a big deal because you're combining so many different ones that it's not a big deal if you don't have the exact flowers that I'm using. As long as you have some of the colors and some of the textures, you're good to go. So I haven't actually attached the card to the wreath. I'm more just using it so that I know where I'm going to place my flowers. And then I'm going to leave a little bit in the middle here for the bow. And that's all there is to it. As you can see, I also added some of those Gerber daisies, the pink ones. And this is all there is to the floral part. So there isn't a whole lot of florals. I would say, you know, about 5 different pink florals, and then about 2 different green picks, and that's it. They're just all cut into little pieces. And for the bow, I'm using several different bow types, all from the Dollar Tree. So this red and pink heart bow, then the little red truck bow, and then also a thinner pink heart bow, ribbon bow. I keep on calling it a bow, ribbon, all from the Dollar Tree, all from this season, because I did go, like I said before, if you want to check out the haul, I can link that up here. I did go to the Dollar Tree just before we went on our stay-at-home order. And then I also have this big red bow. I think this one might have come either from Target or from Michael's several years ago, probably on a clearance because I don't ever buy things full price. And I've had it for a long time. It's quite thick, as you can see, but any red ribbon will do. This is just the one that I had on hand. So again, I don't really have a step-by-step tutorial of how I make bows because I don't think I'm a bow expert. So all I'm doing is I'm cutting off a size, like a decent size length of a ribbon, and I'm just folding over a piece and then twisting it and making like a little bow shape. And then I'm going to do that with another piece, and then I hot glue them together. And I do this with all the colors. I want the red to be at the bottom, then I put the pink and the little red truck ones, and then I just add the thinner ribbon at the end. And like I said, I just hot glue them together to make them look like a bow. Once I get my bows done to the way I like them, then I go ahead and I do up my truck. And for the truck, what I'm doing is just adding some florals so it looks like the truck is carrying some flowers and hearts. I also forgot to mention that I did purchase some Dollar Tree hearts. They were just the little bouquets of hearts that you can get around Valentine's Day. And so what I'm doing is adding some of this green pick. That's why I said you need one branch of each, because you'll just add little pieces here and there. And then I added some of the orchid and some of the pink flower, and then I'll be gluing some of the balloons to the back and to the top of the wreath. Now it depends on how you want to do this. I decided I was going to hot glue the truck to the wreath, and I put a lot of hot glue. I had to kind of play around with it because of the rattan, just the way it was, lifted in some spots. So just make sure you add tons of hot glue and let it set before you try to hang it up. And then I added my heart-shaped picks and just added them also to the wreath, just to add a little bit of Valentine's Day, and that's all there is to it. Now the heart picks I just pushed in there, I didn't glue them on, and then I wound up having to add even more hot glue. You might be able to use some floral wire if you drill a little hole through there. I didn't want to, I wanted it to be seamless, so like I said, I caked on that hot glue. I put a lot of it on and it worked. It hasn't fallen through and I've had it for about a week. It hasn't fallen off and I've had it for about a week, so should be good on there. Now I do use an ultra hot glue gun, so make sure you have that on hand as well. And so here is the finished wreath. I think it turned out really nice. And it looks great on my front door. And I did make a little mini version of this wreath as well. But here it is on my door. Very, very cute. It's nice and big and I love it. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Vesna and this is Vesna TV. I do home decor DIYs on a budget. So anything that's home decor and beautiful, I try to make it, replicate it, and I do all those DIYs on this channel. I do basically Dollar Tree DIYs, thrift flips, trash to treasures, any kind of makeovers or redos I do on this channel. Again, anything on a budget, I do it here. So if you have not subscribed and that's the kind of thing you like, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit that notification bell, and let me know that you're new here so I can say hi. I love to hear from you guys. And let's move on to the next wreath. So the next wreath is a mini version of the Valentine's Day wreath, and I'm using a mason jar lid, just the ring part of it. The little red truck ornament that you could have gotten at Christmas time, I actually picked these up now because they had them 50% off right after Christmas, like the week of New Year's. And I'm going to be painting it in this Tutti Frutti pink. If you can't find this little red truck, you could always just do a cutout of it. It's just so small that you could probably do, and I just painted it pink so you don't need to worry about different colors in the wheels or whatever. If you just do a little cutout of it, you could easily do it out of foam if you had pink foam. So I always do my painting first so it has time to dry while I'm doing everything else. So the little red truck dried, and now I'm kind of doing the same thing that I did on the big one, seeing where I need to position my florals so that way I can leave a little bit for the truck and a little bit for a bow. And I'm just using again the baby's breath, a little bit of the green, and I'm just cutting little tiny branches of it off, like I said, to make a miniature version of the bigger wreath. And I'm literally using what was left over from the big wreath. If there's little bits that I cut off and I didn't use, I cut them off even further and use them for this wreath. Nothing that you need to buy or anything like that. For the orchid, because the orchid flower itself is quite large, I wind up cutting one of the petals in half, actually into 4 pieces, and that's what I use on the wreath. And same with these little flowers, I just cut them off and I just hot glue everything. Just be careful. I am sort of using something to protect my fingers, but not really, so just be very careful when you do this because the hot glue is hot. For the bow part, unfortunately they didn't have a smaller ribbon version of the little red like the little truck. So what I'm doing, I'm using the smaller ribbon of the hearts, and then I'm using the little red little truck ribbon, and I'm just cutting it in half and using both halves, but cutting it in half lengthwise so it's a little bit thinner. You'll see soon what I mean. But just before I show you that, I tried using the red ribbon as well, but cutting it into small little pieces because it's that mesh material, it kind of fell apart. So I wound up taking it off and not using the red material. And I just used a little bit of extra of the pink and the truck material. And then I also wanted to add little hearts to the pickup truck, so it looks like the pickup truck is carrying hearts. And what I wound up adding was cutouts from a piece of foam. I thought I had some stickers that I was going to add, but I couldn't find them. I know I have them, I just couldn't find them. I organized my craft room and now I couldn't find them. So I just freehand cut out some hearts, and I hot glue them to the back of the truck and a little bit on the side. And so it looks like the truck is carrying some hearts and surrounded by hearts. And here's the mini version of the wreath. It's very cute. It'll look great on my Valentine's tray. And here are both wreaths together. So I'm very excited about this video. It is a part of a collaboration together with DIY with Nadia. Nadia does Wreath Wednesdays every Wednesday, and she asked me to participate with her, and I was really excited to accept. So we're both making some wreaths, and if you haven't been to Nadia's channel before, she's got some amazing playlists. She's really talented, just a really fun lady to watch. So make sure you check out her channel. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. She's got lots of great content, and she's really, really talented. She's also got another channel called Coffee with Nadia, so check that out as well. I'll have her information linked in the description below. So for the next wreath, I'm using this wreath form here. I believe I got this from Facebook Marketplace. I got a whole set of them for about 50 cents each. And I'm just spray painting it in just this brown spray paint that I had on hand. And it's just because I didn't like the really light color. Just using a little bit of lamb's ear that I got from Amazon. I have not been able to find this at stores other than Michael's, where it's quite expensive. So I'm very careful with how I use this lamb's ear that I got from Amazon, as I said. I'm just using the two right here, and I'll be hot gluing them down. But before I go ahead and do that, I want to add a welcome sign to the wreath itself. So what I have here is just a scrap piece of wood that's actually left over from my advent calendar. It was just a cutout that I had left over. I wound up staining it with the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze over top of the Annie Sloan black wax. You don't have to do this. You could just use the decorative glaze. It just happened to have that Annie Sloan black wax on it, so I wanted a little bit of a more brown tone, so I added that decorative glaze. And what I'm doing is I'm using my Cricut to cut out the welcome, and I wound up cutting a hole, drilling a hole to the piece of wood so that I can attach it with floral wire. Use my Cricut to cut out welcome using the Easy November font, which I got from Defont. And I'm just going to be dabbing on white acrylic paint from the Dollar Tree onto the stencil. Actually, sorry, painting it on, not dabbing it on. And the key with when you're doing any kind of stencil is you don't want to put too much paint on it. You want to put kind of less is more. So you're better off doing several coats than trying to cake on a lot at once. I did 2 coats of that, and once it dried, I just removed it, and I realized that I didn't have enough of my stencil for the E, so I freehand drew the E. Be careful when you cut out. If you're using little pieces like I do, just make sure that they fit. And I thought they would, and I didn't look well enough on the mat the way it looked on the printout and on the screen and on my mat, but that's okay. I made it work, and I just weed it, and then I'm going to attach it to the wreath. And as I said, I'm just using the floral wire. It's a green floral wire. If you have silver, it would work too. It's going to be covered by the lamb's ear, so I'm not too concerned, and the bow, so I'm not too concerned about it showing because I know it won't show. And I cut it to size, and then I just go ahead, like I said, and I hot glue the lamb's ear, and I also add some cotton stems that I got from the Dollar Tree. And then I'll show you what I do with the bow. So originally I thought maybe I could wrap the lamb's ear around, but I wound up just hot gluing it, and then, as I said, I'm very careful with it, so I didn't want to use too much if I didn't have to. I was happy to add little leaves to it if I needed to. Then I also added the eucalyptus from the Dollar Tree just in here, just to add a little bit more dimension to this. And I cut off little branches of the lamb's ear to save on the stems. And then I'll be adding my bow. For the bow, I really like the buffalo check, the black and white, but I did not have the ribbon for that. So what I actually wound up doing is at Christmas time I had purchased the fabric, the buffalo check fabric. Now if you didn't purchase it at Christmas time, you can always buy the ribbon at Michael's or the fabric at a fabric store. You might even still be able to, I know in the States the Dollar Tree has a little bit more variety than ours do. So you might be even able to pick it up at a Dollar Tree or something like that. But like I said, I didn't have it on hand, didn't want to go out and buy it, so I used what I had. So after I got all of the florals and the cotton in here, then I go ahead to work on my ribbon. So I took a piece of the fabric and I just cut strips off for my ribbon to make, for my bow to make little loops. And once I cut those off, I tied the loops because it's not like ribbon, this is fabric, so it didn't stay up or anything like that, but it gave me the color that I wanted. And I was very careful to follow the pattern of the like the checkered pattern when I was cutting to get as straight as possible. And then I just hot glued it to the wreath just to give me that checkered pattern at the bottom. And then over top, I went ahead and I used some burlap ribbon and I cut it in half because it was quite wide. I cut it in half so that I would get a thinner ribbon form. Originally, I was going to use something else that I had purchased, but it just wasn't working, so I wound up using the bigger ribbon. And I used the same technique where I just tied, well, I made it like a bow, and then I hot glued it so it looked more like a nice bow rather than like a shoelace tied bow. And that's all there was to this. Again, another adorable wreath. For the second mini version of this wreath, I'm using another mason jar ring, and I've spray painted a part of it, kind of just a little bit over top of it and off on a few of the sides in the same brown as I did the bigger wreath. And this was just so that it wouldn't be so shiny. And again, to save my lamb's ear, I'm just using a few leaves of it for this wreath. And I will be hot gluing them to the wreath and to make it look exactly like the bigger version. I also add some of the other green to it, and I realized that I had extra lamb's ear over there, so I wind up just putting that away. And then I add, which I didn't add to the bigger one, I added the cotton to the bigger one, but the cotton was too big and there was no way for me to make it smaller. So I have these mini little pine cones from the Dollar Tree. They're frosted, so they look like there's snow on them. So I add those. And then I just have a piece of a painter's stick, like a stir stick for painting. And I stain that in the Rust-Oleum decorative glaze, and in white paint marker I write the word welcome and I hot glue it to the mini wreath. Then I add a little bit of burlap ribbon, and again, that's all there is to this wreath. So the ribbon that I'm using is actually like a burlap border that you can peel and stick on. So I'm having to use a little bit, like I stick it together, but then I also wind up having to use a little bit of hot glue just because I'm trying to twist it in a way that it doesn't really want to be twisted. But a little bit of hot glue can solve anything. So here it is all finished. Again, it'll be a great addition to my tray decor. And here it is with the bigger piece, bigger wreath. Again, both are so nice and perfect for winter. So if you enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Here are all the wreaths together. And let me know which one was your favorite. Make sure you check out Nadia's video. Check out her channel as well. Thank you so much for stopping by. Friday I will have a new video where I am putting together for you a whole bunch of different Valentine's Day signs and DIYs.